I would hazard a guess to say that the day is going well for Brett Harker and everyone else who was on the Furman team bus last night on the way home from Lexington, Virginia, because they are here. They're back on campus. The players are in class this morning, and there were a few fleeting moments when it looked like that may not be the case yesterday. As mentioned, it's one of the few trips in my 7 years here that I was not on the bus. I can't really speak exactly to what happened, but the guy who can is joining us here. He is Brett Harker, the head coach of the Furman baseball team. Brett, I asked this with all seriousness, but knowing the answer. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing well, man. Happy to be home with my family and enjoying an off day, and happy that Lord had his hand over our bus, and pumped to be able to be building forts with my 5-year-old daughter and watching little Dick Van Dyke, because it was just a scary moment, and happy to be home with my family.
Sure. Kind of puts a couple of losses this weekend into perspective, doesn't it?
It does, man. And it's sad that it takes some scary moments to put things in perspective, but sometimes that's how the Lord works, and just makes you realize how much you love your guys, and how much bigger than just baseball scores that what we do on a day-to-day basis. It just puts everything in perspective.
Well, before we spend a few minutes at the end talking about baseball, let's get to this. The game ends, players all shower, you guys hit the bus. I mean, it's a routine. Everything in baseball travel is a routine. I tell people all the time when I travel, whether it's baseball or basketball or whatever, all I have to do is be at the hotel, be on the bus, be at the ballpark, and follow the time schedule. So you slip into a routine. It becomes kind of mundane. Sometimes you don't even think about what you're doing because it's such a routine. So from that standpoint, it was just another normal getaway day, right?
Yeah, you're exactly right. And, we weren't even planning on stopping to eat. We had some subs on the bus. It's just a long ride home. That's our longest ride of the year. And guys got exams starting tomorrow, so I was trying to get them home as quickly as possible. So we showered and got on the bus. And, with today's buses, you got Wi-Fi, you got, satellite TVs going. You very rarely are actually paying attention to what's in front of you. And we were about 30 minutes away from Lexington, Virginia, which, as you guys know, is basically all mountains and very narrow roads, even the highways. And I looked down at my phone for a second to look at a text, and I heard an explosion up underneath us. And about that time, I really didn't know what had happened. The top cabinet above us opened, and I got hit in the head with a can falling down. So I really didn't know what happened. I didn't know if the window had blown out, and then I realized that our tire had blew, and we went from the right-hand lane instantly into the left-hand lane going down the highway, probably 65, 70 miles an hour. Thank God there was nobody in the left-hand lane, or else they would have been gone. And instantly went from the left-hand lane off the road, and we slid for about 100 yards while the bus driver was trying to keep it from flipping the entire time, had a death grip on the steering wheel, trying to veer it back right because we were heading for an embankment. And I remember looking at the two coaches. I sit on the second row, unlike most head coaches, just because I simply get car sick if I sit on the front row. So I was looking at my assistant coaches, and their feet were up trying to figure out which way they were going to jump when it tipped. And I looked to the side, and there's a player on the ground. He had got thrown. I looked back. There was players being thrown left and right. And we're skidding the whole time. And you're sitting there looking at this embankment, just knowing that we're about to flip because we couldn't get the bus stopped in time. And our bus driver, Richard, ends up somehow steering it just enough right to where we just clip the embankment. We actually take a piece of the embankment out, and it rips off the side of our bus, but he's able to keep it from flipping. And man, oh man, it shook pretty good. Thankfully, I mean, some guys got tossed around, some guys hit their heads on up, but as of right now, nothing serious. And it was a surreal moment. I've just spent thousands upon thousands of hours on buses over the years, and just Never had anything like that happen. As a matter of fact, the owner of Gene said in 38 years, that's only their second front tire to ever go. It's just such a dangerous thing. It just never happens.
Yeah.
Typically, if they blow, it's a back tire in which you have two tires in the back so you don't lose control. But, I mean, our bus driver, Richard, just did an unbelievable job of keeping that bus upright and, saving us from a very, very serious situation.
You told me last night, you said you were not exaggerating. You think he probably saved a couple of lives.
You just don't know what's going to happen. If that thing flips, you're in big trouble. You got 35 people in there and you're going down the highway. And if that thing flips, we're in trouble. And, why I keep saying the Lord just had his hand on us. If you look, that was literally the only place that we would have had room off to the left. Anywhere else, there's just drop offs, and anywhere else, we would have went to the side of either off a hill or to the side of a hill and flipped up. And man, oh man, it was a scary moment. But thankfully everybody's all right, and just cannot speak highly enough of our bus driver Richard at Gene's and the job he did when all that was going down.
Brett Harker joining us on the show. Brett, as you're talking, the pictures that you posted on Twitter last night, I've taken and put into a slideshow so people are seeing a little bit of what happened in these still shots and trying to give a perspective, especially the one from back looking to where the bus is from behind, at how far that bus actually skidded, and then the front shot of the left front fender of the bus being just up on that embankment. Just looking at the pictures, you're right. Another 5 or 10 feet in motion toward that embankment. We're talking about a different story.
Yeah, we are. And it's just, the perspective, I mean, I got a lot more pictures of everything he avoided. When our tire actually blew, we were actually on an overpass. We were over a bridge, and we missed that guardrail. When I went back and looked at it before the state troopers made me get back on the bus, we missed the guardrail by less than 3 feet. I mean, had it blown 10 feet earlier, I mean, there's just so many things that could have made this something that would be, something that would affect our team for a very, very long time. We're just so fortunate that we're all okay and can focus on baseball and not something way more serious.
When everything came to a halt, when the bus finally came to a stop there, and everybody had a chance to kind of catch a breath and realize what happened, how did the players react? How did your coaches react?
Yeah, I mean, everyone was pretty shook. We had, our trainer Mike actually went up and down the aisles, making sure everybody was okay, because everybody got thrown pretty good, and a couple guys had hit their heads, and we were monitoring them. And our biggest thing was just relief, because it just felt like it was like a scene from a movie. It just felt like forever to get that bus to stop, and it just looked like an inevitable flip. And obviously, I wanted to make sure the bus driver was all right. He was a little bit teary-eyed, obviously. It was a lot that happened real quick. And then it was just a matter of, all right, what do we do now to make sure we're in a safe place? Because we were only a couple feet off of Highway 81 now with tractor trailers flying by. So we were able to get the highway patrol there and block off cones. And now it's how do you get 35 guys up to the next exit as safe as you can, after 6 o'clock on a Sunday when everybody's closed. And Abbott bus, who was out of Roanoke, helped us out a ton and was able to send a bus and get our guys and take us to North Carolina, where Jeans was able to pick us up from there. So we ended up switching buses 3 times, but we're able to get home late last night. And, just once again, it was just a sigh of relief once we realized that, nobody was in any serious, no one got seriously hurt.
And you told me what all things considered, it ended up not being as late as you might have thought. You got back on campus, what, about 1 a.m.?
Yeah, about 1 a.m. And that's simply that we were able to get a hold of somebody at Abbott's, that's not easy to do on a Sunday night. They just happened to have a bus driver coming back through, and he was actually going home. He had been driving all weekend and volunteered to come pick us up, and forever be grateful for him and Abbott's for doing that for us.
Yeah, it's not politically correct a lot of times to talk about things that God does for you in these days and times. But as you're telling the story and you start detailing everything that could have happened and didn't happen, and the things that did happen instead of something else happening, yeah, you can only ascertain that a higher power did have its hand on you.
Amen to that. And we'll never be scared to thank God and thank Jesus for His protection over my team. I don't care about being politically correct about that.
Amen, brother.
And I'll tell you, I only posted things on Twitter not for attention, simply because that's the quickest way for me to get to all of our parents and let them know everything's okay. And that's a whole lot quicker than calling 35 parents. And you start bragging on God, and things can happen. And I looked at it this morning. I had no idea it had kind of went viral online. The story of it had 131,000 impressions on Twitter, which is nothing short of incredible. And of course, then you get the ugly stuff out of it, where people are saying ugly stuff on Twitter. People have no idea who they are across the country, and that's just the world we live in. I'll stick with thank you, Lord, for taking care of our program.
Absolutely, we're visiting with Brett Harker, the Furman baseball coach. Now, on top of all of that, the guys have exams that start this week, right?
They do, and that's a tough break right there. But that's kind of how life is. You got to roll with the punches and buckle down and do your job. And our guys are prepared. We have some of the best student athletes in the country, and we have a little different bus rides. Our guys are back there with laptops and studying and getting projects done, and they're well prepared for it. I'll tell you that much.
Don't want to keep you away from your fort building and Dick Van Dyke watching too long with Emma, because I know how demanding she is of your time. But
Oh, yeah.
but just from a baseball perspective, very quickly to get a couple of thoughts in there, were able to get out of town prior to all of this happening and salvage a game in the series yesterday. But even in the first two losses, as I talked about earlier, I thought there were some positive things. I mentioned Jordan Beatson's performance before he was pulled, and then some signs of guys in your lineup maybe starting to finally come around a little bit.
Yeah, I agree. Listen, the bottom line is, I thought about this morning. We went 2-2 on a week where we played all road games, and look, we want to win them all, and we want to stop losing series in the SoCon. Trust me, we want that more than anybody. But sometimes you gotta look, step back and look at the big picture and realize that we went 2-2, playing 4 road games against some quality opponents and guys that can really swing the bat, which means that we swung the bat well too. And with the exception of Friday night, I think that's the best we've swung the bats all year with our approach at the plate. 1 through 9 guys stepping up. I think some guys are getting hot with Elmi and Jabari getting hot pretty well too. I think that we're headed in the right direction. And excited to see our offense start to take shape here. I know it's a little bit late, but you always got to play your best baseball in May anyway. And once we start getting a couple of these arms back with these guys that are stepping up on top of that, I really do think we're going to be just fine.
Tomorrow night, the annual versus cancer game against South Carolina at Fluor Field, and it's another reminder of a cause bigger than baseball. And of course, tomorrow is Den's Day. We're going to talk about that in a little bit with people, alumni and supporters being encouraged to donate tomorrow to all aspects of the university. But this versus cancer thing is something that the players themselves coordinate, take charge of, and again, another reminder that while baseball, yeah, it's important and it's fun, there are other things that trump baseball.
Yeah, you're right. And what's really cool about this is 100% player driven. The coaches have nothing to do with it except for raising money ourselves. That the players completely coordinate this. They set up their own web pages. They raise the money. This has nothing to do with the coaches. And I think that's really, really neat that 18 to 22-year-olds take so much pride in doing something that, has nothing to do with them. It's simply helping the, kids with cancer and helping a bigger cause. And it's been a special thing for our program for quite some time. To take a lot of pride in it. And, you know, it's not very hard for me to shave my head. I do it every Monday, but these guys got some good looking hair. And for them to do that united as a team after the game, shave their heads and do it for raising money for childhood cancer. And another really cool thing, they go on Monday nights and they go visit the local hospital at GHS and go visit cancer patients and the children's section. They do all this on their own. I think that is just a testament to what our kids, where their hearts are, and I just could not be more proud of that.
Yeah, I tried to craft it during the broadcast yesterday to have people think back to when they were 18 to 22, or if they now have 18 to 22-year-olds of their own, and know how much those kids think of themselves and their looks, and getting guys to be willing to shave their heads for a bigger cause like this. I think it's phenomenal.
I do too, and it's a fun night for our university. Obviously, they're doing the unveiling of the Furman on Deck at Floor Field, and it's just another example of our relationship with the Greenville Drive and how good you know, our relationship between the Drive and Furman is. And it's going to be a big night, so I want to play well. We're going to start Jake Crawford tomorrow. You know, it won't be a typical start because Jake won't be able to go 6 or 7, but I think he'll give us a good start there, and then we'll go to the bullpen from there and hopefully take care of business against the Gamecocks. We'd love to have a series sweep against them this year with us playing so well at Founders Park earlier this year.
All right. Well, listen, Brett, go back and spend some quality time with Emma, and we will see you at the ballpark tomorrow.
Sounds good, Dan.
All
Thank
right,
you.
man. Thank you, buddy. That is Brett Harker. Thank God that he and everybody else on that bus was safe. And, again, a tip of the cap to our bus driver, Richard, who is just phenomenal. He was, from all reports, the star of that show when things went south in a hurry yesterday afternoon. All right, we'll take a break and come back and get into some other things in the final segment of the program. This is the Dan Scott Show for a Monday, and we'll return in just a moment.
Holding, number 7.